Welcome back. We're joined now by brilliant Daily Beast legal correspondent Shan Wu. Wu is a former federal prosecutor who served as a counsel to U.S. Attorney General Janet Reno. And we brought him in specifically to calm Sam's nerves.
I don't know. I don't know if that's possible. Thank you so much for being here. Can you help us understand this moment? Just what do we do in general now? How should we be seeing what is happening?
And are we in a constitutional crisis, as I keep hearing? And what actually is a constitutional crisis?
That's a great question. So I think the term constitutional crisis, first, it's undefined. I mean, it's not like an actual specific diagnosis that one can give, and we've met those elements. I do think we've been overusing it, not right now, but we've been overusing it for a number of years, constantly saying that what Trump does puts us in a constitutional crisis. So my personal definition of the constitutional crisis is when the system's really completely breaking down, meaning the different branches of government are literally at loggerheads, they're defying each other, or they're not speaking to each other. So I don't think we're there yet. This is unquestionably a stress test, and I think a lot of what Trump has done has been a stress test on the system, which for the most part, the system has been failing. Actually, it has not been working very well. But what's happening right now is that the Trump administration is really pushing their expansion of the presidential authority. They are running into a lot of resistance, primarily in courts. And a lot of that resistance is coming from private lawsuits, not the federal government itself, obviously. And many judges are ruling against them in a number of stages.
Right.
Now, the constitutional crisis aspect is, what if they defy the judges? There's a lot of bluster, a lot of talk, and there may be a lot of undermining of the judge's authority, but they haven't quite reached the point of outright saying, we won't do exactly what you're telling us to do. We can talk more about that because they have a lot of muddying things they can do before they actually have to get to that point. So to me, we're not yet in a crisis. It's certainly a stress test. We haven't been doing that well on the stress test. But to me, the crisis is when finally he reaches a point where, let's say, crystal clear order, won't do anything about it. We're the executive. We've got the military. Make us.
Right. Well, I mean, we're so close to that with these deportation flights to El Salvador. Doesn't it feel like I feel like we're in a really gray zone, because I know there's legalese involved. I guess what you're saying is it has to be more crystal clear than defying an order in that way, because at least they tried to make a legal argument. Are you saying that the constitutional crisis occurs when they stop even trying to make a legal argument?
Yes,
Okay.
exactly. Or if they're like what you're suggesting, they're not showing up, they don't bother with the
Right.
courts, or there's a crystal clear order that they literally say, make me do it. So right now, they're certainly in defiance. They're trying to undermine the rule of law. They're probably defying the rule of law. They're taking illegal actions, but they're still in the process. And for whatever nonsense, inappropriate things they want to say about the judges, they're still in the judge's court. When the trial level district court rules against them, they're saying they're going to appeal it to the next level, and then they hope to get to the Supreme Court. That's still within the process, no matter what their position is. So in that sense, to me, we're still within the constitutional structure. I mean, it is a big stress test. It's a problem the way they're trying to flout the laws and the norm.
Right.
But to me, it's not a crisis for the Constitution.
But don't we feel like that could happen overnight? Like literally Tom Homan said just the other day, like, we don't care that judges and courts are ordering us to stop deportations. We're going to do it anyway. So they're like foreshadowing what could come tomorrow. And what if it does come tomorrow?
And they've certainly been attacking the judges and saying the judges are radical left-wing radical left-wingers. Yeah, and John Roberts, obviously the Supreme Court Justice, came out and admonished the government, and he said, for more than 2 centuries, it's been established that impeachment is not an appropriate response to disagreement concerning a judicial decision, in response to people saying the judge, in particular Judge Boasberg, who tried to stop the deportations to El Salvador, should be impeached. Shan, talk about, is that unusual for the Chief Justice to come out and say something like that? And I feel like there's been this sort of rock starring of the Supreme Court judges. What's going on the Supreme Court? You know some of them. Is this an exciting moment for them? Is this what they live for, to see this ultimate test?
I would say my own views on this is that there is too much of this rock star status accorded to the court. I mean, we certainly saw that with Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Whenever a Supreme Court justice seems to rule favorably for one side or the other, each side wants to adopt them as really their champion that way. Overall, systemically, as a big problem, we have way too much importance grafted onto the Supreme Court. It's no longer a co-equal branch, it's the most supreme branch. I think what's going on for the justices is I think it's often overlooked, the sort of human nature side of it. I mean, they have grown up legally with this image of the court as the highest position to be in. There's an ego factor. They love the idea, I think, of deciding really juicy things that affect all American lives. So there's definitely an ego factor in there. Whether they want cases that are this divisive in the country, that they probably don't want to do, because they also sense that when they rule on really divisive things, it hurts their standing, which has been really very, very low and sinking
Right.
lower, in large part due to their ethics issues and their inability or unwillingness to really try to enforce ethics codes against themselves.
My general takeaway is never have any heroes ever, and never say it out loud if you do.
Right.
Okay, well, checks and balances are like the bedrock of democracy. If he ignores the judiciary and Congress won't act, what are we living in?
If he really ignores it,
Yeah.
I think unfortunately it comes back to that old, political saying, "All power flows from the barrel of a gun." I mean, it's who has the guns, who has the
Oh
military
boy.
at this point, and quite frighteningly, it's very scary. To your point, we've seen a little microcosm of that with Doge's efforts against this small nonprofit that gives aid. I think it's called USAID Africa. It's not USAID, where they actually would show up. They have shown up with the FBI. They threatened to use the marshals. They got the DC police to be on their side. So that's really a microcosm example of what's going to happen there. Is whoever has the military power, the marshal strength, rules.
I don't even like to say these words, but it feels like we're kind of edging toward. Are we edging toward a civil war? Doesn't it need two sides? I mean, I only see one side, and then I see a bunch of people booing at the Kennedy Center. I don't know.
I think we are definitely edging towards the constitutional crisis we were just discussing.
Yeah.
Civil war, not to be overly technical, I'd have a different term for that. Just like you're saying, you kind of like need two sides. Who are the rebels in this case? But as the actual use of martial forces happens, military, police, I think you edge closer to that open defiance. In terms of the court cases, they're still squarely in the system, no matter what Tom Homan wants to say. Although I think he's putting a nice, red flag on his back, nice target for being held in contempt if he shows up and starts talking that way. But whatever that kind of bluster is, they're still in the court system. Now, there's a lot they can do to pretend to go along with the court system while they actually, don't do it. And that's really up to opposing lawyers and the judge to really, one by one, take away those excuses until it's crystal clear what they are doing, and they're answering clear questions like about the deportation. Who's on the planes? Let's start with that.
Right. What's our 10-point plan? What's our 2-point plan?
Well,
What's the
also,
next step?
isn't this about the extent to which the public also get involved? And I can see that people aren't particularly wound up about alleged criminals being deported, but the mass firing of employees feels like a potential powder keg in terms of the courts making one decision and Doge or government officials making another and saying, we're not going to rehire you. So what happens in a situation like that, Shan?
It's kind of the same theme, which is they're being ordered to, let's say, stop terminations. They're being ordered to rehire people. And now comes the follow-up, right? I mean, important, the judge different judges have made those orders. And now the question is, how do they make sure the orders are being followed? And there's a lot of room for mischief there. I mean, they can haul in people from the agency who are Trump appointees who say, oh yeah, we're rehiring everybody. Everything's great. And in fact, employees are like, well, no, I haven't received an email. My email's not on. I'm not there, not getting a paycheck. So then the judge really has to drill down on what's actually happening and force people under oath to give the testimony so they can get some answers on it. So that's still part of the process that has to happen there.
What are the things that I should be worried about that I don't even know that I should be worried about? Like, are we being creative enough? I mean, they have incredible imaginations. And I feel like we're operating in a different, it's like we're just playing two different games right now.
It's also difficult to know because so much of it is done for show and done for this kind of huge television show that Trump is running and how it plays on television.
Right.
And it's difficult to know, to Shan's point, the extent to which the detail is actually being monitored.
Right. What is the showdown? What is the final showdown that he is gunning for?
Or not even the final showdown. What's the beginning of the showdowns where one side wins?
Yes.
It is incremental, and I think to the extent that a lot of these, what I think are illegal and unconstitutional actions are pushed back on or remedied, it's going to be incremental. It's going to come in small pieces. They're certainly not going to suddenly stop doing all that. The big change here, the big unknown fear is one, we don't actually know what they're doing. We don't really know who are the Doge people going in and doing things. That's an unknown fear. The greater fear is in terms of the access they've had to large databases. This is potentially like a breach of people's privacy data that is really incomprehensible. And that is an unknown. We actually don't know what kind of damage has been done. We don't know how the whole landscape of privacy and how our data is going to be used or what it looks like for us in the future. We don't know what that looks like yet because it's been such a fundamental change, fundamental breach. So that's a big unknown to worry about.
All right. What's our final question for Shan?
I don't know. I just don't know what comes next. I don't know what it could possibly be like to be a judge right now.
Scary.
Who knows?
Scary,
Yeah.
right?
Who knows that your order is going to be defied? Then what? What's your next move? Everybody, the chill around Washington.
Well,
the chill is, you can feel it.
Yeah, the chill and also the doxing of judges and the attacking them on X just feels a step change in intimidation, which is really alarming.
It almost makes you wish that the Democrats were demonstrating leadership right now. Anyway.
Well, I think
I'll see myself out.
I mean, at least Chuck Schumer had to cancel his book tour. Unbelievable that he was thinking of going on a book tour. Well,
yes, R.I.P. your book tour.
R.I.P. Shan, thank you very much. We would love to have you back as we hurtle further towards the constitutional crisis, or do we? Who knows? We have no idea. But really appreciate you coming on and trying to explain it to us. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. Good to see you.